To be here.
All right.
Great to be here with you.
All right. What's new?
Well, I'm happy that I could bring all this national media exposure to the San Joaquin Valley so people actually know where we're at.
God almighty.
On the map. They think that there's more to California than just San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Can I do one thing? Because I'm sure that national media is bird-dogging this segment here. His name is Nunes. It's not Nunes. All right? He's not Spanish. He's not Mexican.
Or just call me Devin. That's what you normally call me.
He's a Portuguese extraction, I believe. It's Nunes. Nunes. Get it straight. Does that bug you?
No.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. You know, you made a comment.
The only thing that would bother me is if people were calling me nuns. That's what they usually do when I'm...
I haven't heard that one. Nuns?
Yeah, nuns. So at least they don't do that.
Devin, nuns? You made a comment the other day that I'd love you to clarify. You said that the Democrats have been screaming for documents. You've given them a lot of documents, but they haven't read them. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I think. Well,
what did you mean by that?
Well, I think the issue here is that we have a lot of documents to review on the Russian investigation at the intelligence agencies. We've had investigators going through it for several weeks, and then we want Director Comey to come back in and testify. We want to make sure that the documents that we've requested, the intelligence reports that I was able to review last week, we want to make sure that those are made available to all members. But what's happening here is that we continue to request information, but it continues to be blocked. So there's procedural moves being made in the dark of the night by the opposing political parties and the intelligence agencies to try to block the public from getting access to this information, or at least when I say the public, meaning the Congress.
You postponed that second meeting that you were going to have, the public meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Are you ever going to get around to that?
Well, we'll have additional public meetings, but now what we've done is we've agreed on a witness list, so we know the witnesses that we want to bring in. We're going to have to do interviews with those witnesses, and then at that point, we have to decide what type of public hearing that we're going to do.
Can I ask who those witnesses are?
You know, the one thing, I think there's the people who have been made, have made their names public. That's those people have come public. But other than that, we're not going to get into the people that we're inviting. I mean, I've made that agreement with the ranking member of the Democrat on our committee and conducting the investigation.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard, as much heat as you've been taking back there from those. I think it's a small group of people that are giving you heat back there, in the opposing political party. You've had nothing but support here.
Yeah, well, look, this is the major the major news media outlets. I mean, we know that they bend left. There's no question of that. But I think this is the obvious example of that, of just how far left they've gone, and just their unwillingness to actually get to the bottom of the facts here. To be fascinated about me going to the White House on the White House grounds to review these documents, and why did I do it? Seems just odd. Seems like why would you not be worried about?
For the record, you didn't do that covertly.
No, I did it right in I did it in daylight. I spoke to people when I walked on there. I mean, this is just inaccurate. This is inaccurate reporting, and then it just has built upon itself. There was one report that said that I had jumped out of a car in the middle of the night and then gotten into another car and sped off, and it was doing like anti-surveillance routes.
Is that wrong?
It's totally false. Totally false.
Okay.
Like there's no truth to it whatsoever. The fact of the matter is I went over to the White House grounds to a secure facility so that I could legally look at documents that I'd been trying to get for a very, very long time that, quite frankly, need to get to the Democrats and the Republicans. And everyone needs to know about them, because I think people will have concerns about surveillance activities that occurred against the president-elect and his transition team, at least that much.
In the last 60 days, if you were going to do this all over again, would you have done anything differently?
Well, I think it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. But in terms of whether or not, I think the big question is whether or not I should have went to the White House and briefed the president. And I would say absolutely yes, that had to be done. And look, I was well aware of the appearance that it would give. So what did I do? I held a press conference to tell the media, to be very transparent, that I was going to
And
go over to the White House and brief the president on
I thought
something
that was brilliant because you weren't hiding anything.
and it had nothing to do with Russia. And so, but then just all the speculation since that time, all it's been is about who's his sources, who are your sources. And now these are media people who should understand it's important to protect sources, but it's really important to protect sources when they involve national security and the classified nature of things.
What do you know of this person, Evelyn Farkas? That name's popped up
Yeah,
in the news.
I saw that. So as you know, there's been several news stories that have discussed that the former administration was leaving breadcrumbs, as I think what was reported in one of the news media outlets. And evidently, this lady was saying some of the same things in an interview in about, early March. So that's all I know about her. I've never met her before, but she clearly is some type of Democratic operative.
She's Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense under then-President Barack Obama. Discussed a collection of efforts, I'm reading here obviously, by her colleagues during a March 2nd interview on MSNBC. Apparently, she's now a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, blah, 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 blah. But she apparently had something to do with some sort of surveilling or whatever.
Somebody also told me that she was working on Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that to be true, but I know that's one of the things that somebody had mentioned. So clearly, if this person was working on Hillary's campaign, had access to classified information, talked about spreading it around to all sorts of media and Congress and everyone else, it sure sounds problematic.
Where's this all going to go, do you think? Can you speculate a little bit?
Well, at this point, we're as you know, there's not been a bigger Russia hawk than me. I was the one who a year ago.
I was just saying that before you got here.
Yeah, I warned that this was one of the biggest intelligence failures since 9/11. Our inability to figure out what Russia and Putin was doing. We warned the administration and the intelligence agencies that the intelligence we were getting was not adequate, and we knew of their cyber activities that they were conducting. And so it's interesting to step back and look, and now the left is attacking me for being some type of Putin protege of some kind. I mean, it's just.
I haven't heard that one yet.
It's just bizarro, and I don't know where people are coming up with this stuff. But look, I think at the end of the day, we'll let the facts lead us to where it goes, where all this information goes. So you've got the Russian investigation that we're doing. We'll conduct interviews, and then on the other side now as we've been following the facts, as it deals with Americans being picked up in incidental collection. Potentially for political purposes of some kind, and then their names being unmasked. That's going to be a major issue that's going to have to be dealt with too. So more work for us to do.
There's been talk that, and it's from the other side, that the Intel Committee in the House is, irreparably damaged, and this is going to have to go to the Senate now for further investigation, et cetera, et cetera. How would you respond to that?
Well, look, I'm just glad. Originally they wanted the House and Senate to have a joint bicameral investigation, and I said absolutely not. I said the House is a separate branch, and it's good to have two sets of eyes looking at this, both the House and Senate. So, look, we're trying to keep things on track, but as you know, politics is a rough business, and so, every 10 minutes there's some new talking head saying something that, or having, one of a member of Congress on, playing politics. So, look, none of this is easy, and I get that, but I think at the end of the day we'll have a report that people will be able to go to as a reference as to what the Russians are really up to.
When you say that, what they're really up to, from the beginning you've said there's no evidence that they're up to anything as far as the election goes.
You mean as collusion with the Trump campaign?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And you still stand your ground on that one, right?
Yeah, we have no evidence that shows any collusion with the Trump campaign.
Okay.
And but as it relates to Russia doing bad things and being involved in in our election, all you have to do is turn on your TV and watch RT, because it's on every single market in the United States has RT television. You can just turn it on, and that is flat out Russian propaganda.
Really?
Yep. even around the globe. I mean, it's all in all sorts of different languages. So, I mean, I think the Russians learned from what we did with back in the Cold War when we had radio networks and TV networks that would broadcast into the Soviet Union. They kind of adopted that mechanism, and they've went global with this propaganda arm called RT. And I think it's been very successful to get their message out.
Are you surprised at all the attention that this is getting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind I don't, as you know, I don't seek out attention. I also don't.
No, you don't. That's why.
But I also don't hide from
that.
I also don't hide from people. I try to, answer questions as best as I can. Obviously, sometimes it's hard when you're dealing in a classified setting. But this is. The only thing that I would say that seems just peculiar is why people aren't focusing on the facts, and they're more worried about story after story that's come out.
Which was going to be my next statement, because there doesn't
wildly inaccurate.
Everybody seems to be focusing on the periphery of everything, but they're not focusing on the substance.
Right. Look, I think there must be, and it's pretty obvious to me, there must be some orchestrated effort to tear down individuals, to tear down our committee, because the Democrats have been very clear. They want an independent commission to look at this, which my opinion of independent commissions is there's no such thing as an independent commission. The best thing we can do is actually have people who are elected, who are accountable to someone, to produce a good report and a good credible investigation.
Well, I got to save this for after the news break, but I want to share a comment that was about you when I was back there recently for the State of the Union address. We'll continue on KMJ with Devin Nunes after a quick news update. Aaron Abatia, it's all yours.
Thank you, Ray. A multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit alleging fraud against Trump University has been settled. Gary Nunn has the latest.
It's the end of a 7-year tangle of legal battles. A judge in San Diego has stamped approved on a deal for President Trump to pay $25 million, settling lawsuits over his now-defunct Trump University. Nearly 4,000 former students are in line to get back most of the money they spent. The lawsuits allege that Trump U offered seminars that were more like infomercials, pressuring people to spend more and ultimately failing to deliver. Under terms of the settlement, Mr. Trump admits no wrongdoing. Gary Nunn, CBS News.
PG&E issuing another warning about scammers posing as utility representatives. Latest schemes include phony emails asking for an online payment, as well as fraudsters seeking personal information over the phone. PG&E urging customers to report any suspicious requests. The Dow down 60 points right now. NASDAQ flat. S&P 500 off 3. 68 abundant sunshine in Fresno this afternoon. 46 tonight. 77 our forecast high for tomorrow. 54 right now in Radio City. News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks. I'm Aaron Abatia, News Talk 580, 1059, KMJ.
News Talk 580.
Hey, it's Gnarly Charlie.
And I'm Jody Joe from your sister station, Kiss Country.
Happy birthday!
You're locked on the legendary KMJ, 95 years young.
KMJ.
Chris Daniel for the Gill Auto Group in Madera, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Buick, Cadillac, and GMC. And is there any better time of year than spring to get a new car? Air is clean. You're driving with the windows down. You feel fantastic. Get some. Gill Auto Group, home of the no-pressure Gill deal, where their sales advocates get paid to take care of you, whether you buy the car or not. Come into Madera and test drive the all-new Buick convertible Cascada. This thing is sharp. And take advantage of the huge Gill discount and manufacturer rebates. And let that beautiful ragtop put the spring in your hair. Gill's got one of the largest certified inventories in the Valley. And what's better than an inexpensive, pre-owned, certified with a 100,000-mile warranty? So spring and the deals at Gill Auto Group have sprung. No credit application will be refused. Great credit, slow credit, no credit, or just simply, oh my God, credit. My guys in Madera have the Gill deal for you. But there's only one way to get the Gill deal. You gotta go to Gill. The Gill Auto Group in Madera. Take the 99 to the 145 exit, go a half mile west, and you're there.
Hate changing your cat's litter? Then change your cat's litter. Revolutionary Arm & Hammer Slide non-stick clumping litter slides right out of the litter box with no scraping and provides a 7-day odor-free home guaranteed.
KMJ Radio News, Central California's #1 rated radio news team. KMPH Fox 26 News, the Valley's most watched primetime news on TV. Now, the Valley's most powerful news affiliation. First, fast, and accurate every day.
Typically, when I'm doing a commercial for somebody, I really don't like statistics. But there is an exception to every rule, like these statistics for Realty Concepts. Last year in 2016, the associates at Realty Concepts sold 39% more per associate than the associates at their biggest competitors. Okay, fine, they can sell. What does that say about client satisfaction? Based upon closing surveys, 99% of Realty Concepts clients say they'd refer their friends and family to their Realty Concepts agent. Documented. Realty Concepts listings sell 20% faster than the listings at their biggest competitors. Yeah, it is real estate the right way. Click realtyconcepts.com. Facebook, Instagram, buying or selling. One phone number is all it takes. 490-1500. 490-1500. Realty Concepts.
#1 in the Valley. This is the Ray Appleton Show on News Talk 580 1059 KMJ.
Congressman Devin Nunes, chairman of the Intel Committee, sitting down with us, and this is obviously not the typical warm and fuzzy that we do with the congressman, because things have sort of heated up in a number of areas in Washington recently. When I was back at your invitation to the State of the Union, or whatever it was called, that the president had in the House of Representatives, and thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. That was a ball. I really appreciated it.
Well, we were glad you could broadcast from there. It's always good to get people from the Valley back there, and I know we had a lot of good interviews for you that were lined up, so thanks for being back there.
That was a hoot. Anyway, I was outside of your building, and there were a number of individuals that worked for individuals in the Congress and served as representatives of the Congress, your colleagues. I couldn't tell you who they were. Republicans and Democrats having conversations about whatever. And I joined the conversation. They were speculating as to what President Trump was going to be talking about in his address. Mm-hmm. And they said, "Who are you?" I introduced myself and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "I'm the guest of Devin Nunes." And even the Democrats said, "You were one of the few," in their words, Republicans that they respected. Because when you said something that you were going to do, you did it. You were not one to BS or full of bluster. And one she was a female Democratic congresswoman, said that she liked you because you never sought the spotlight, and now you got the spotlight, big time.
Well, don't whatever you do is don't let that Democratic name get out, or she'll probably be attacked. Look, we have a long tradition on the House Intelligence Committee of cooperating in a bipartisan manner. I mean, it's not a surprise. And look, as you know, I'm a guy who I'm a policy guy, and I like to dive deep into policy. I enjoy what I do a lot, and the opportunities to meet the people that I've been able to meet around the globe have been something that very few Americans get to do. And look, at the end of the day, I wish we didn't have to go through this whole hard process, because feelings are very, very hot on the left, because there's a lot of people who just feel like the election was stolen from them, and I understand that. But look, as you know, no votes were changed in the election, and we know that there was, at this point, we haven't found any collusion of any ties to the Trump campaign, although we're looking for it.
Some of you are saying that, not some of you, excuse me, some of the people on the left, some of the individuals that are trying to go after your head are saying that you're the president's tool, you're too close to the president, et cetera, simply because you were a member of the transition team. You know the president. I'm acquainted with the president, have been for 11 years. I haven't seen anything that indicates that you're buddies with Donald Trump. You've even said things publicly that would get under the president's skin. So I don't know where anybody would get that impression.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I was not an early supporter of Donald Trump. I stayed out of the primaries. But after the primary, I said, look, I'm a Republican. I want the Republicans to win the House and the Senate and the presidency. And if you get through a primary, I'm going to support you. And that's what I did. And I think the value of having, I have a lot of good experience in the Congress in terms of on trade and healthcare and tax policy, and of course the national security issues, I think it only made sense that I would be on the transition team, and I was honored to have been chosen. But look, at the end of the day, as of right now, we don't have anything that ties the president to the Russians. And so, look, and if we did, believe me, if the FBI doesn't find that and we somehow find it, well, that totally changes the game. I think at that point, if we did find something like that, I think we would quickly get that over to the Department of Justice, and our investigation would probably come to a close.
When you went to the White House, did you go specifically to the White House because it was safe ground? You knew nobody could bust the party there. You knew you'd be able to. You were going to be uncompromised as far as getting information there, or did you go there specifically to pick up information?
Well,
I'm still not clear on that.
So I had known for a very long time that of additional unmaskings that had occurred from sources throughout the IC. I was trying to find a way to find that information, and finally I was able to figure out a way to do it. And because there's secure facilities on the White House grounds, that was a logical place for me to go. Now, keep in mind, when I went there, which was I wasn't jumping out of cars or anything like that. I went there, walked in, said hello to people, said hi to there were a few foreign dignitaries that were there. Went to see the information, and then I said, "Whoa, this is quite different than what I thought I was gonna see." So it confirmed what I already knew, but it was a much larger amount of information, none of which had to do with Russia. That then I went back to the House of Representatives, talked to some of my colleagues, including the Speaker, and said that, "Look, I think I need to inform the President about this." And so the next day I went. I scheduled a meeting in the morning to meet with the President of the United States, and went over there, went and told the media, and then went and told the President.
When are we going to learn chapter and verse of this information?
Well, if we could get the intelligence agencies to provide it, that would be to our investigators, so that we could actually comb through it.
You've seen it though.
I've seen some. I mean, there could be more. I mean, look, my concern, I've seen a small number of, dozens of reports. My guess is there's a lot more reports that are out there that by the time we can complete the investigation into what is almost a separate issue now, is this investigation of potential incidental collection on the Trump transition team. That's going to be a long process, but we're going to have to see. My guess is I didn't see them all. My guess is there's a lot more intelligence reports out there.
So what you saw tells you there's a domino effect going on. There's a lot more behind what.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but what I saw is alarming. It's not what I signed up to do. Look, I'm a strong protector of our ability to surveil, especially terrorists and bad guys. As you know, we've had many debates on this station over on this issue. With people who call up and are upset at me and some of the positions that I take.
I recall that vividly, yes.
So, but I always promise people that if I ever see anything that doesn't look right, that looks like our surveillance activities are being abused, that looks like Americans' names are not being properly protected, I made a commitment on your show, to my colleagues, that I would call. I'll call it for what it is. I'd call balls and strikes. And I'm telling you that what I saw made me very, very uncomfortable. And I thought I should brief the President of the United States on that. And I'm going to brief, as soon as we can get it all, I'll brief the rest of our colleagues.
So what you saw was illegal, criminal?
Well, we don't know that yet. But clearly it looks like to the extent that they tried to mask Americans' names, it was done pretty weak, because I was able to tell exactly who the people were. And then there was actually additional unmaskings that I think that's where you actually reveal the person's name. Mm-hmm. It's not, to me, it's not even questionable. And, we're going to have to change the way, at a minimum, our intelligence laws work in terms of incidental collection of Americans.
Oh. Okay. I know you got to get out of here in a few minutes, and I'm going to honor that. Recently, General Flynn has asked for immunity. What does that mean to you?
Well, we don't know that. We just heard from his lawyer in the last couple days. There was just one preliminary discussion, I think, from between his lawyer and our committee lawyers, and outside of that, we don't have any more information.
Okay, so that's secondhand information.
Yeah, I've seen the news reports this morning and have been asked about it, but I just don't have any information on it.
Okay. The overall mood of the Intel Committee in the House now is what?
Well, look, there's obviously we've been a lot more in the limelight than we should be. This is why I don't like to do a lot of television interviews. This is why I don't like to talk about
you lay low.
Intelligence agencies publicly. I don't think it's a good place to be. I don't think it's a proper place for me to be. So look, there's just from my perspective, there's just way too much attention being paid to the intelligence committees at this point. But at the same time, we have a responsibility. So we can always change things up, which is kind of what's happened here, which is this has become very, very divisive, very, very political, which we knew it would, but we'll have to work our way through it.
What do you see changing when this is all said and done? What do you see changing? You said that the way that people are surveilled or whatever is going to have to change. Existing procedures, laws are going to change, or what? What did you mean by that comment?
I think so. I just don't think that. Look. At the end of the day, we'll have to get it back to the rest of my colleagues. Once my colleagues will be able to comb through this, but we have these intelligence programs come up for reauthorization every year, and we'll have to look at what changes need to be made, because clearly what I saw in intelligence reporting was not appropriate. Not appropriate to be collected the way it was, and then put into a report, and then disseminated. And that's the challenge with it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
I think you're doing. It's reading my email, looking at the comments I get on social media. That people support you overwhelmingly here.
Thank you.
Think that you're taking a lot of hits that you don't deserve, and even those that have had tangled with you a little bit in the past, saying, "Stand your ground." Don't listen to these calls to recuse yourself and all of this. Keep on keeping on.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is going to be a long process. But at the end of the day, I sign up to do this job, and nobody forces me to go down and take the oath of office. So
I know you love this job. You've had chances to do other things, but you've hung around. It's water, it's tax reform, and it's this job as the chairman of the Intel Committee that keep you going. You love it.
That's right. I do, and I appreciate the support from folks, especially folks in your audience, and I appreciate you having me on today.
It's our pleasure. And his name is Nunes, not Nunes.
Devin. Just call me Devin.
Devin.
That's easier.
Thanks for coming in.
All right, Ray.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear from you soon.
Thank you.
This is KMJ.
I'm here to